It's a long story, complicated story, but the most important thing I'm going to tell you about, my husband asked me to tell everyone about, is our marriage and how long we've known each other, because the hostage takers are trying to prevent the rescue, and they're trying to make it seem like my husband and I aren't as close as we are and that our marriage isn't as serious. So we're going to discuss that first and foremost. So my husband and I met when he was an infant, and he was brought to me by his parents because they approved our monogamous arranged marriage. I was subsequently kidnapped briefly and by some of the hostage takers, and I was kept for 3 months, and then I was returned home. So that was my experience with them. And some of those people are disowned relatives of mine that are disowned for that purpose. So they were already disowned for that reason. My husband's parents, they're also involved in the situation, but they insist that our marriage is real and it's monogamous and it's an arranged marriage. So they brought my husband to me again when he was a toddler, and then again when he was in about kindergarten, and a few times during grade school. Like kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, so that I would meet him when I was a teenager, because they wanted to make sure that I waited for my husband. So that's what I was planning on doing. I was briefly hypnotized and brainwashed as a teenager, and I was sextorted and raped via sextortion. So these people were paying people to find me. They were child predators that were paying other child predators to come and find me as a child to try and ruin my marriage, because they thought that if I was raped that they wouldn't honor the arranged marriage. So, but my husband and his parents understand that it only happened a few times. I mean, it was every sexual experience for me and my husband both has been rape. But for me, it's only been a couple dozen incidences. And for my husband, it's 5,000 people that are doing it constantly. So it was rape via sextortion. And that started, that's been kind of throughout my life. But my husband and I both realize now what they were doing. It takes a while to find out and figure out when someone is being sextorted, especially at the level that they're doing it, because they're holding my husband hostage, and they were leading me to believe that he was in France, or he was being unfaithful, or something else was happening. But that's not what was happening. He was being raped and withheld from me, and I wasn't made aware of the situation. My husband didn't get a chance to tell me, because when we saw each other, it was very brief, and we have been spending a lot of time together over the years. He also was in danger when he was with me, and he was scared they were going to kill me. So it took him a while to tell me. It's extreme. They're holding my husband down by the wrists and the ankles. They walk him around by the wrists and the ankles, and they treat him like a robot or an inanimate object, and they don't listen to him, and he tells them he doesn't want to do it. And they have guns and knives, and there's 5,000 of them, and my husband is there by himself, and our 11-year-old son is there. So my husband and I have been spending as much time as possible together when he has tried to escape, but the situation between us was never conveyed fully, because he was always in constant danger, and they were always following us, and I didn't know that my disowned relatives were involved. So we have spent time together for his whole life. We've been together, and we met when he was a baby. So anyone that tries to kind of make any claim that he's theirs or that he belongs to them, they're all lying. This is a group of pedophiles that have become a cult, and they travel in like groups of 30, 50, or 100. And it's really, really, it's really obvious. It's just like it's 100 losers just traveling together to places like Beaulieu-sur-Mer and spending money in Lyon and France and places that they think are elite. And they kind of migrate like monkeys around. So that's what they do, and they steal money and they rape children, and they think that that's their calling, but they're junkies and they're pedophiles and they're addicts. So that's the truth of the situation. The other thing they're trying to do is blame me and my husband, saying that everyone in the world does the same thing. That's not the case. They're using social media, and they're using hacking computer programs to try to influence the rest of the world to join this group of pedophiles and addicts, trying to get the whole world to change the worldwide laws to let people have sex with kids. And you're not allowed to do that. It's disgusting. They're trying to make you think, especially men, they're trying to make you think that you are entitled to trying having sex with kids once, and you're not allowed. Obviously, you shouldn't have that desire, and it's always a mistake when people do it. You'll go to jail, and you'll be killed because you're not allowed to do it. So the laws will never be changing. The statutes will only increase. The way that they're doing this to females want the money, and they're also turning them into whores before they do that, and they're kind of incorporating it into their kind of job description. So don't be joining the sex industry at all. The other thing they're doing for women is they're making them think that their husbands are going to leave them unless they let them do this kind of thing. So you're not allowed. I don't care who you are, what age you are, where you're from, what color you are. You're not allowed to sleep with kids. It's disgusting. You shouldn't have that tendency, and you shouldn't have that feeling. So there's something else going on there, and I'm going to explain that later, because to me it's really obvious as someone who would never do these things and as someone who never has. And someone who used to smoke cigarettes. So I understand the concept of addiction, and I understand from being a smoker before that's exactly what they're dealing with now. But they're psychotic too at the same time. So they're holding my husband hostage, and they're raping my husband, and they've made that a part of their sexual routine, and they have to let my husband go. So there's 5,000 of them here in Toronto that we know of that are raping my husband, but there's a lot more around the world. But there's 12 billion of us total, and I know for a fact that the majority of people are going to hear what I'm saying, and they're going to know that I'm right, and they're going to know that there's someone else on the planet. Me and my husband both kind of represent either situation. So I'm someone that has never done that. It's never going to. My husband would never do that either, and my husband's a hostage. And he's being raped. So my husband and I are completely against what these people are doing, and you can relate to us, and we can have everyone on our side. My nose is running. Hopefully it isn't COVID. I need a tissue. There we go. I'll use this bandana. These come in handy. These are what I use constantly for everything. Saves a lot of money too. Saves on toilet paper, Kleenex, paper towel, everything. Okay, so the rest of the story. So my husband and I have been together our whole lives, and we've seen each other many, many times, and obviously we have the closest intimate relationship, and my husband was being withheld from me, and we didn't get a chance to discuss the truth about the situation because he was scared that I was going to get killed, or that something worse would happen. My husband's younger than me, and that's why as well. He was a kid. I thought he was in France living with his parents, and that maybe something bad had happened, that he was sexually assaulted, and men are a little bit shy about these things, so they don't always talk about them. But it turns out that he was actually a hostage the whole time, and his relatives were involved in the situation in some capacity. So my husband kept coming to find me, and then right after we would be together, I would then receive information that appeared on the surface like it was coming from my husband, and it was always kind of making me think that something else was going on. But we've come to discover through trial and error, my husband have figured it out, that they were corresponding with me, and they were leading me to believe that he was doing something wrong when actually he was a hostage. So we figured it out, but we figured it out after we got pregnant, and our son, our biological son, was born in 2010. And my husband and I was under the impression that we didn't know if we were going to be together. We were already married at that point. We've been married our whole lives because it's an arranged marriage, and that means it's from birth. So that's a legal marriage from birth. So our son was then sent to live with my husband and his parents because I was told that they had money and they could afford to help, and he was going to live with them in Europe, and that nothing else was going on. So that was the situation there. I was traveling back and forth to France and seeing them occasionally when my husband was in school, but I never got the full truth. So it was a hostage situation the whole time, and our son is now a hostage as well. So Within the last couple of years, we've made the biggest strides, and I came to discover I found the location. So it turns out my husband has been in Toronto being held hostage the majority of the time throughout his life.